Bad news for gays and lesbians in Russia. President Vladimir Putin has signed into law a ban on, quote, the propaganda of non-traditional sexual relations, which can be interpreted to mean anything from putting a rainbow sticker on your backpack to a same-sex couple holding hands. Sergey, just kick us off here. Explain to us exactly what this law is, how it came about.
Well, basically, this law is a continuation of a long series of unfortunate, steps back. It seems like rather than forward, like I was happy, just to see in the United States. It started with a few deeply sort of Siberian and kind of more the eastern part of Russia. Three of those cities, and most recently St. Petersburg, passed a certain law called the Law Against the Propaganda of Homosexuality. And what that basically means is that under the guise of protecting our minors from the depraved waves of the homosexual people, basically it makes it illegal to say the word gay or to have any gay paraphernalia in any public forum. So in a sense, this is actually a really rogue and weird act of censorship. So much so that, for example, at a May Day parade earlier this year, because May Day is a big holiday in Russia, some people came out to celebrate just the freedom, to be yourself, and some people came out with the rainbow flag, and they were detained. So it kind of this homophobic wave kind of swept through Russia, most recently in St. Petersburg. It was proposed on a national level, and it didn't pass. What did pass, however, is the law that that Putin just signed. It essentially, this is significant. It doesn't say what you can and cannot talk about. It basically says, if you talk about that, this is how you talk about it. And they in the original reading, which said basically gays can't, homosexual relations can't be we can't have a propaganda of homosexual relations. They exchanged that with non-traditional relationships. So basically, whenever you speak of non-traditional relationships as being normal, that's what's punishable by law, and that is just weird. It's weird because it seems like for a country that just went through about 8 years of totalitarian repression, and this is exactly what was happening. They were saying, if you're going to talk about the Soviet Union, this is how you talk about it. If you don't talk about it that way, you go to the concentration camp or you go to prison. And this is exactly what seems to be happening with this non-traditional relationships law. And of course, it's all but being presented to the public as protecting our minors, which is why 88% of Russians, they put this figure up. They're saying 88% of Russians support the law. Well, the way it was posed to them is, well, are you for corrupting our minors? Well, people say no. Are you for a law that's against corrupting our minors? People say yes. That's how we got to 88%.
Right.
Meanwhile, and this is one other very significant thing, they don't even distinguish between pedophilia and homosexuality, which basically unearths the fundamental problem, which is that of total ignorance.
Alisha, yeah, thanks for that, Sergey. That makes it clear. Alisha, you understand Russian society and politics a lot better than I do. To what extent is this just throwing a bone to Putin's base? I mean, is there some kind of domestic thing going on here where Russians like the sense of power and traditionalism and family values and authoritarianism that this kind of thing embodies? Or is it, I mean, and is there any possibility that this is more heat than light and that it's not going to be implemented very much? How concerned should we be about the practical implications of this law?
Well, I think to a certain extent it's the latter as opposed to the former that you just described. And it's important to remember that this new law that was handed down targets groups that focus on values that are espoused by the Russian Constitution, both in the language and the spirit. So the organizations that are being accused of propagandizing homosexuality are groups that focus on civil rights or a ban on discrimination or people who fight against hate crimes. And it's not just organizations that focus on LGBT issues, although those are part of the mix.